So now that the hat is back on its rightful owner, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I do for fun down here in Mexico. So this is my huerta, or my garden, or sometimes I like to call it my finca, my farm. And back in Oregon, we actually have a small farm. And in Oregon, you just kind of throw seeds at the ground and it turns into a huge beanstalk. It's so easy to garden in Oregon. Down here, it's a little bit different. You can help me explore my garden right now, and I'll give you some tips on what I found works for vegetable and fruit gardening down here in Mexico. First, to share with you what I have growing, and this is at the end of the season. This is about end of March right now. And so I have dill growing, I have basil growing, I have oregano, I have cilantro growing as part of the spices. It's amazing. We just put it on all the food that we make in the kitchen. We also have tomatoes growing. We have corn growing. We have beans and cucumbers growing. And of course we have peppers, as well as all types of greens like lettuce and arugula. And we have rosemary growing. And I'm kind of excited, we also have passion fruit growing. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And I'm also going to tell you about some things that did not work well. So part of this video is going to be, I'm imparting to you some of the painful lessons I've learned, but overall this has been amazing. I love coming out here in the mornings and gathering our harvest and tending all the plants. And some of the tips I'd like to share with you, and this is specifically for Baja, California, sir. We're in La Paz. And so every, climate in every geography in Mexico is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have microclimates, but let me share with you what I've learned here. And so first off, we are on very sandy soil, right? Very sandy. And so the native trees and plants grow well here, but a lot of what I would say are some of the vegetables and the fruit trees that we bring down will not grow well here without a lot of TLC. And so what we did here is we actually dug down about 1.5 feet and removed the sand. And then we put in a mixture of compost, humus, and some of the sand back together. And we mixed it all together, probably about a third to third to third combination. And then we filled it back in, but we also put leaves and small sticks on the bottom so that they'll act as compost through the years as everything breaks down. That has worked really well. And then we put in an automatic irrigation system, so drip, because of course water is very precious in Mexico. And so it does just a little bit of drip irrigation right at the root level. It's awesome. I don't spend all my time watering, and it is really water-wise. Our caretaker installed it for us. It's on a timer. Even all the little nozzles, as these little red nozzles on the strips, those can be adjusted. They can be turned off completely. They can be turned halfway. They can be turned on. So there's a lot of control with this irrigation system. And of course, sometimes I come in, if there's a new plant, I water a little bit additionally with the hose. But for the most part, the irrigation is perfect and plants are really happy. And the system that we use that's automatic is called Ratio, and it's actually an app on my phone. It's like crazy, but it's an app on my phone and I can actually control it from anywhere. When I'm up in Oregon, I can control to turn it on, to turn it off, the amount of the duration. It's really convenient and super awesome. And of course, I have my faithful garden helper with me. It hasn't been all butterflies and bunnies. There have been some pretty significant challenges with gardening down here. One is just finding seeds. There's not a huge selection, so I actually brought some down with me. And the others are the critters. As you may know, I'm a critter lover, and so we don't harm anything, but we've had to try to protect the vegetables so we at least get some of them, right? I'm okay with sharing some, but we need some ourselves. And so two things have happened. One is with the water and the irrigation, what it has done is it's attracted these cute critters called pocket gophers, and I guess they're native here. They're adorable, but what they do is they're attracted to the water and they come up and they dig in, and then for the most part they're okay, but enough times what they'll do is they'll eat the roots of the plant, and then they'll actually pull the plant down, and I'm sure have a lovely lunch or a snack with it. And so what we have started to do is build cages. So when we built this cage out of chicken wire, plant it in the ground, and then you plant the seed or you plant the plant right into that. And so far it's worked great. We haven't had any plant losses to pocket gophers since we've started doing that. So Lizzie is an additional garden helper. She's our foster dog, our current foster dog. And her favorite thing is to try to find the gophers. The other critters that we are managing are the birds. And the birds here are beautiful. I love them. We feed them. But what they like to do is when the seedlings of anything, especially like lettuce, are coming up, they will come in flocks and just eat it right to the ground. And so we had to also have some cages with chicken wire built that just cover the bed until the plants get big enough that they can survive the pecking. And that has also worked amazingly well. We also have a fruit orchard in the huerta, and we have pomegranate. We have my favorite, which is key lime, because I grew up in the Keys, in the Florida Keys. We have over here more key lime. We have more pomegranate. We have tangerine. We have fig. We have oranges. Yeah, I actually grew some of the pomegranates from seeds. I'm kind of excited about that. We've actually gotten a little bit of a key lime harvest, but we're waiting for everything to get a little bit bigger. So what hasn't done well yet are our coconut palms. And we think it's maybe because the gophers are coming up and eating the roots. So we're going to get some new ones and we're going to plant those in the cages. And it's all an experiment, right? Gardening is all about an experiment. We also had papayas last year. Oh, they were amazing. They got really big and they got full of papayas, and then they all died. And we don't know why. We don't know if it was the heat. We don't know if it was the gophers, but we're trying again, this time in cages, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm super excited this year because we actually planted a pistachio tree. Who knew? And we also planted a tamarindo tree. And if you've ever had like a tamarindo margarita or just a tamarindo drink, it's like a sweet, tart fruit that's amazing. I actually grew up with those in the Keys as well. It's going to be a couple years before they produce, but again, gardening is all about experimentation, fun, and patience. And here's just one cultural difference just to be sensitive to and to be aware of, is that in Mexico, Mexicans like to rake their gravel. They like to rake their dirt. They like everything to be very neat and tidy, which is wonderful. However, that's not great for plants, especially in this climate. They need as much compost and mulch on top as possible to retain the moisture and to reduce the heat level. And so as you can see, we have started to build a really nice mulch pile here, but we have to be really specific with our caretaker not to rake it up because, he wants it to look nice and neat and he wants to rake everything away. So just be cognizant of that if you do have a gardener or a caretaker, to make sure that they know that's actually what you're trying to achieve. It's not a mistake. And if you get the chance, that's what you want to do as well. You want to put as much mulch down to retain a good growing environment. So this year was especially fun because when we came back in November, what we found was that dill, all this beautiful dill had self-seeded, as well as all this beautiful arugula, and you'll see more over there, had self-seeded. So when we got here, there was a ton of dill, there was a ton of arugula already growing, and we were able to harvest it. So the other thing that survived over the really hot summers here in La Paz, we had basil growing. It's at the end of the season, so it's looking a little peaked right now, but that actually over summered. And then you can see right here, I have brand new lettuce growing. It's just coming up. I seeded it a couple weeks ago. And this has gotten big enough where the birds aren't pecking it completely, but there's a special one here and I always put something over it just to keep the birds out. So as you can see, I'm letting a lot of my arugula and my lettuce and my basil and my dill go to seed. I do that in Oregon too. It's just so nice. It all falls to the ground and it just comes up on its own the next year. It's just a fun way to do it. The other thing, you can grow things in pots as long as you keep the moisture level at an even level. my takeaway is definitely put in a vegetable garden if you can, because it is good for the soul. It's fun. You get to eat all your goodies. We're actually thinking of starting a gardening club here in El Centenario just to get together and socialize, share tips, maybe share goodies. I think everyone should have a garden. It's fun. And if you want to watch videos by the other guy that wears my hat, you can check them out here.